Welcome to the results of my AI agent benchmark test. In this video we're going to talk about the results of the 4 AI agent frameworks which I tested. I tested AutoGen versus CrewAI versus LangGraph versus AgentZero. All of the videos I will link in this one so you can find them and watch the videos if you did not see them so far. And yeah, so let's get started with our benchmark summary. So the first thing, what was the task? The task was, which I benchmarked with all of those framework. There were like 3 steps. The first step was like get ticker data from Yahoo Finance API. So the framework was supposed to call a tool and get this data. Then read a file, which was in this file was the Warren Buffett principles, and use this data to analyze the ticker, the stock. And then finally perform the analysis and evaluate the stock and save the data into a file, and then the user has to read the file. So the benchmark criteria, what I was evaluating was the cost per run, was the lines of code needed for applying the workflow, then the execution time, how long it took that the whole script was running, and the ease of use of the tool. And finally, the installation complexity of the framework. Okay, so let's jump into the costs. So here we have the cost analysis, and well, you can see that the 3 frameworks like AutoGen, CrewAI and LangGraph, they were pretty cheap. They were not a lot differences. We can only see that LangGraph was the cheapest model by far. And CrewAI and AutoGen, they were almost kind of the same. And AgentZero, the costs were, in comparison with the others, the costs were kind of exploding. So for one simple run, we paid like 3 cents. So why is this important? So first of all, we have those significant variations. And why is important? Of course, if you want to scale one of those frameworks, costs are definitely important. So the scalability is impacted by the costs, definitely. Then your money which you use values a lot more if you use one of those frameworks. If you use AutoGen, it seems like it's just putting out your money and you don't get any big value for it, because here you get an output for very, very few money, and here you kind of have to consider it how often you run it. Okay, so let's get to the development effort. So for the development effort, I used as a parameter, the lines of codes. So here you see how much lines of codes were used. The blue thing is like only the lines of codes without the tool. And for defining the functions, for defining the tool, is the green part. So here we can see that CrewAI needed most of the code and AgentZero did not need any code. So I could just, with one simple prompt, without any code, I could achieve what I wanted to achieve. So, okay, it does cost more money, but the implementation cost is a lot lower. So if you want to prototype, that's very good. Then it's very good for that. So between AutoGen and LangGraph, there was not a big difference. Only CrewAI needed like a little bit more code. So why is it important, the code complexity? Of course, for maintainability. If you want to maintain a product, the less code you have, of course, the easier it is to maintain and to add features. And then you have like the less code you need, the smaller is your learning curve. if you have to write a lot of code and things like that, you need a lot of knowledge to apply all of this code. Okay, so next thing is the performance, in this case, the speed. Here you can see again, and this is quite related, of course, to send a request to OpenAI. We use the GPT-4 mini model in this case, needs time. So if you send a lot of tokens, if you send a lot of requests with a lot of tokens, it takes much more time. So it's logic that AutoGen took a lot more time than the other frameworks. Here again, we can see that AutoGen was the most performant one. And well, CrewAI was quite slow. So if you really want to scale, if you want to deploy it and use it on a big scale, in this case, AutoGen is the winner, as you can see. So why is this important? Well, for the real world scenarios where you really want that your customer is going to use those agent workflows that you implemented, of course, the speed is important. It's not, a client does not want to wait like 90 seconds for a request to complete. And even 9 seconds is quite long, I would say this has to, for real world integration, I think these times has to drastically go down. And as I said, yes, for scalability, it's much more difficult to scale something where you have like a response time of 20 seconds than something like which has milliseconds of response time. Right now, most of the APIs, they have a response time in the milliseconds. Okay, so the usability trade-offs. For the installation complexity, we can, and the ease of use. So here we can say that AutoGen was pretty easy to install. You only have to install one library, and it's pretty easy to use because it's well documented. CrewAI, on the other hand, is not that easy to set up. You need some more knowledge to set it up, and the installation complexity is on the medium level. AgentZero is very easy to use, but the installation is quite complex because you have to install Docker and the documentation is not that good. And LangGraph, yes, it's not easy to use and it's quite and the installation complexity is quite hard because if you want to use their builder, then you have to use Docker too, and for me, for example, it did not work. So yes, the ease of use, of course, if it's beginner friendly and we have the setup complexity. So finally, to compare all of this, the winner in each categories, we have like I added like 5 categories: best for prototyping, ideal for complex projects, most cost effective, easiest to learn, and overall recommendation. In each of these categories, I have a winner. So best for prototyping, I would say still is AutoGen because it is so well documented. If you are a developer, okay, with one but, if you are a developer, AutoGen is perfect for you. You will be able to prototype very fast. If you're not a developer and want to focus on prompt and engineering, then you should use AgentZero. With AgentZero, you just need one prompt. That's kind of all the setup, and then the workflow, it will just go through the workflow, and you know if it will work or not. And then maybe you can use another agent framework to then implement this thing. Then, which one is ideal for complex projects? That's definitely LangGraph, because you have so many things that you can individualize. You can kind of define anything. It's like everything you can kind of define yourself. So in this case, it's definitely LangGraph. If you have really complex projects, you want to define every step very carefully and very individual. So in this case, I recommend you to use LangGraph. Well, the most cost-effective one that was simple, just comparing the price, and this was AutoGen. The easiest to learn, I would say, is CrewAI, because it's only about prompting. So for the ones who are not so familiar with writing code and who want to focus on prompting and to learn prompting, use CrewAI, because that one then is perfect for you. And my overall recommendation is AutoGen. I really like to work with AutoGen, and yes, if you want to get a deeper dive into it, how it works, what I like, then I recommend you to watch my video about AutoGen. And yes, for me it was very easy to use, and I really achieved my goals with it very fast, and the results were very good. It was very fast and very cheap. So for me, a perfect fit. Yeah, that's it. That's my benchmark. If you want that I test more frameworks or that I do a different test with the agents, then write it in the comment. If you like the video, feel free to like. So see you in the next one. See you. Ciao.